Welcome to the Real Estate Show. From buying to selling and everything in between. Rochester's home for everything real estate. And now, your hosts from the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. It's Anthony Butera and Jason Mancuso.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 85 of the Real Estate Show.
Another 85 of April or March.
Yeah, it's March 85th.
March 85th.
2032. We're talking about the real estate market in Rochester and the coronavirus, the shutdown, all that stuff. It was we're filming this or recording this on Thursday. So Governor Cuomo just like minutes ago said that the pause efforts are till the 15th. Now, so it was originally until May 15th. Sorry, May 15th. It was originally May 1st. It was going to, so he extended it for another couple of weeks.
I didn't even know that. That's breaking news.
It's breaking news. Yeah.
Flash bulletin.
Well, I was just watching. Well, I mean, a lot of talk now though about him talking about the curve. It's plateauing. It's dropping of people going into the hospital and stuff, and them slowly opening up the economy a little based on what's essential and what's non-essential. Where do you guys think real estate is going to fall in this? In the essential, non-essential, as they start slowly opening the economy?
I think we're going to be essential with pretty limited guidelines, kind of like not quite as bad as what we're doing now, but I just think that there's going to be some guidelines laid out for precautions. We literally just got an update in the last 30 minutes of what, how the guidelines are interpreted, right? Because we're living in a world right now of gray area, and everyone's turned into an attorney overnight, and they're interpreting things how they want, right? But there's manipulation in the interpretation. So it's tough. And there's ways that we can conduct our business where it's legal, right? But you're putting your people at more risk. Then there's ways to conduct business that can be looked at as, well, it's super gray. That's a lot safer than the guidelines they've laid out. No one spent an abundance of time thinking about Rochester's local real estate market, right? It's the New York State guidelines, and we're left to interpret for all of our agents. And it's not easy because it's changed so much and it's changed so often. Literally every day there's updates. And then there's the explanation and how everybody reads that.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, nothing's really changed in terms of, the mission that we're on just as human beings right now. And, if that's the news that's coming out is that things are starting to plateau and then hopefully that leads to a drop off, then, all this effort that people are, hurting from financially and economically, it's good to know that it's working and will continue to work. Now, as far as the real estate business locally or just, anywhere, at the end of the day, if you have to do something, if you have a need to buy or sell a property for whatever reason, and, even if you don't have a need, a pressing need, but want to, or, just whether it's taking advantage or just, this is your desire to buy or sell a home right now, it's very much possible to do this in an efficient manner and really not feel too many differing effects than what it would be if it were a month, 45 days earlier than where we're at now. What I mean by that is we can do this in a manner that's as safe as it can be and as efficient as it can be for you, the consumer, if you're buying or selling. And, we could still make the world go round in that regard. It's just, it can't be, loose to the point where there's just random people coming in and out of a bunch of homes across the board. I mean, that's where it's not gray to us, is that, we're not going to be the ones that are facilitating just kind of, what was free will to go and see a house, as normal.
So I'll go over what we're doing for our listings. So we're doing virtual tours only. And if the buyer has enough interest, they can put a contract together. And if their agent's not adding the language in, I have been adding the language in that the buyer shall physically see the property within 24 hours of acceptance, but prior to attorney approvals, prior to giving a good faith deposit, because I don't want to get in too deep. I'd rather find out ASAP if this buyer is going to walk, as opposed to waiting 6 weeks or 8 weeks for a final walkthrough where the buyer's seen the home for the first time. And, you know, that virtual tour won't show them what it smells like and what it truly looks like. It gives them a pretty good picture, but, you know, there's something to be said about physically seeing it. So we have had a lot of luck in that. I can tell you that our last handful of listings that we put out there, they've all sold over asking price, but we've also been fortunate in that of the listings we've been putting out there, almost every single one of them has been vacant. And I guess I didn't go back in time. I don't know if we could go back and track like how many vacant listings we get, but we've been fortunate in that we've had a lot. So what we're doing is the buyer's going to get in within 24 hours. Their agent's not going to be there with them. Whoever's on that purchase contract and on the pre-approval. So they're going to get a walkthrough. At that point, if it was contingent upon a home inspection, a home inspector can come in. They have their own governing body that facilitates how they have to conduct themselves. So they're getting in, they're doing all the protocols. They're doing face masks, they're putting booties on their shoes, and, you know, they're doing it safe. A bank appraisal, if it's a mortgage, there's like I'd say right now, 25% chance that the appraiser is going to have to go into the property. If we make it that far, the buyer's entitled to a final walkthrough. So how we're doing it is, worst case scenario, there's going to be 4 physical entries into the home, where a lot of agents they're staying within the gray area, but they have 30 showings on one of their listings. Like, to me, that's insanity.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you hit, as far as process from a house being listed to the closing table, you know, we're setting it up for sellers and for buyers to where, you know, for a buyer, you really only need to get in there twice to make your, you know, well, once to make your decision to move forward, and then once before you close on it, just to, you know, that's part of the norm of normal business, just to make sure that the property's in the same condition and, you know, still standing before you go cut a big check. And then, you know, we're limiting the exposure to the appraisers, limiting the exposure to the home inspectors. That's the process. You know, what you can't do in these times is, all right, I got to have 2 or 3 showings before I even decide to make an offer. If it's not, you know, a hot listing that's super competitive, let me get, you know, dad over here to check it out. Uncle Billy, who's an electrician, is going to, you know, he wants to get his eyes on it and look after me too. You know, having the whole family come over during the home inspection. You know, this is stuff that's kind of the norm, more or less, to a typical normal market that's just flat out not going to be allowed. You know, you're not going to get in and measure for carpet, you know, 3 weeks before closing. We just got to adhere to, you know, what the obvious logic is, you know, across the board for the world right now of not having this, you know, this thing get any worse than it is.
What do you see? Is there anything like, so, you know, June, July, things opening back up? Is there any way that you see, like some of the practices that are going on now, the changes, extending further, you know, in the near future, you know, the next year or so, as this keeps on happening? What do you guys see happening with real estate, or with at least, you know?
Yeah, I think we've been forced to become technological experts more than we ever have been, you know, overnight as a result of this. And I think, you know, that there'll be, I think it's going to be a benefit to overall marketing moving forward, to where it's, you know, just virtual tour concept was kind of, you know, very much a rarity that would be accompanied for listings, you know, before this. I think you're going to see a lot of it, and if anything, the majority of listings going out there having that option. It just makes sense too. I mean, it's a benefit to the seller, it's a benefit to the buyer to, you know, get a chance to take a look at something online, you know, before you from a seller standpoint, have a bunch of people truck through your home, and a buyer standpoint, wasting the time to go out and see something that isn't going to work.
I'm putting myself in like a buyer's agent's shoes, or someone that primarily works with buyers, or just how they're going to conduct their business when they're working with buyers, if their business is split down the middle. So based on what we're going through right now, I'm seeing so many, the majority of the listings hitting the market right now, they have virtual tours, right? So we always have, agents on our team that, we're always going to have those buyers that are going to look at 30, 40 houses, right? By the time you're done working with them, if they ever buy anything, you'll be lucky to break even on your time, expenses, fuel, wear and tear on your vehicles. Like we've always had those buyers in the past. I think if all the agents work together on, because it's never going to get done through the board. Good luck, you're going to wait years. But if the agents got together, or at least the majority of the ones that carry the most listings, if we all kind of made a pact that we're going to have virtual tours for all of our listings, now when you get those buyers that send you 15 homes that they're interested in, you could say, hey guys, listen, I'm glad that, this many homes seem to fit your criteria. Go ahead and watch the 15 virtual tours. Let me know what your 2 favorite were. Let's be more purposeful with our time, right? Or if let's just say the buyers, their work schedules conflict as far as them getting out of their work, or if they can only see homes after 7:30 p.m., you always run into that. And a lot of times it's dark out too. So now I'm thinking, like, could the buyer's agents be more purposeful with their schedule? And instead of waiting till 7:30, 8 o'clock to show them the house, get in there during the day when you have an abundance of time, do a virtual tour walkthrough, see if they can just get on like a Zoom call with you or FaceTime on their lunch break, right? It's going to take 15 minutes. Let's go through the house. Ask me any questions. Yep, furnace is here. Here's what year it was installed, right? So you can kind of, you can make the showing go a lot smoother, and you can schedule it based on your time blocking. So you're not, you're not a slave to their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason this is a thing is because this technology is so easy to use. And we haven't been forced to use it up until this point like we have been now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, moving forward, I mean, there's a lot of utilization that Zoom video, FaceTime, YouTube, whatever, can have just in everyday life, but also in the real estate market. So, I mean, I think it's important to take advantage of it, moving forward, just because this is the day that we live in, right? I mean, this technology is only going to get better now too as we go. So, applying it to, buying or selling process, I don't know, to us, it's just a no brainer. Why wouldn't you? If if you got a truck out to see a house, but there's a virtual tour available for you to see, in 5 minutes time, why wouldn't you do that? And then confirm that you still want to see the house, and then you're rocking and rolling. So I think it's a lot of added benefit to the process overall, as a result of what we're experiencing right now and what we're adapting for the business. So, kind of a silver lining, so to speak.
So let's go through if somebody wants to sell their home and they're looking at middle of summer or something, they have to sell their home. They're going to wait until this quarantine stuff, it kind of loosens up. What are some things they can be doing now?
Let me start by saying, like, family, kids, or senior citizens, like, I want to echo what we've said previously is, like, wait, if you don't have to sell, there's no need to jump into this right now.
Mm-hmm. I think a couple reasons for that is the obvious health concerns, but back to the reality of the real estate market, like, we're still operating, we're still doing business, there's still deals being done, we're still helping people. The analogy I've been using, and I apologize if I said it before, but the market, let's look at it overall as a swimming pool. the water would be the buyers. You know, there's not enough water to go swimming in the pool right now because, you know, there's this virtual stuff is out there, but in reality, you know, the majority of people want to wait.
But with more people in the pool, Jason, it doesn't require much water. It's like me taking a bath. It's like 3 cups of hot water.
Yeah, displacement. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be drowning in it.
Yeah,
Mark, can you shut him off, please? This is.
So, I mean,
all I
though,
heard is that we're all getting in a bathtub together. So
Yeah. Oh, I thought that, Jason.
next week, tune in. I mean, the reality is, like, you know, if you don't have to do something, I mean, our recommendation is still, like, we're not out there selfishly trying to just squeeze whatever piece of business that we can during this time to stay afloat. You know, from a market standpoint, from a supply and demand, just basic economic standpoint, you know, wait till these restrictions are lifted so that, you know, we can start to establish what the new, you know, normalcy will be.
Yeah. On the flip side, we were talking about, like, you know, agents being more purposeful with their time by adapting to this technology that's been force fed to us, which is a good thing, because we are going to come out of this way stronger. And I know right now we're in the middle of it and it's doom and gloom for a lot of people, but realtors, you kind of have to force feed them or they're not going to adapt. They just become irrelevant over time and, you know, forget where they went. But, you know, being purposeful with your time, you know, there's an abundance of time for home sellers, time that they've never seen. So if your intention is to sell your home in the next, I mean, shit, if your intention is to sell your home in the next year, right now is the time to be doing stuff around the house, right? Get that, you know, get that place, get ton of painting that you could do, oil-based canvas art, no, you know, paint the house. We're gonna catch. I know today's like 30 degrees, and I'm looking at snow outside right now. But like we have plenty of days where it's in the 50s, and it's gonna get warmer. Start cleaning up the outside. Like, do everything now, so when the floodgates open, we're not coming up with a punch list for you at that time and delaying your listing another 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the reality to this conversation of what can you do to get ready, you know, during this time, if you're planning on selling middle of summer, whatever, you know, this thing blows over, waiting for that. There's not like a lot of groundbreaking, jaw-dropping ahas to take away from this conversation. The reality is you just have the time to really, you know, make this as make your home as perfect as you can. And even if you are working, just think of it from the standpoint of, you know, we know you're not going out on weekends. So, you know, you just pick up that extra time to where we're, you know, the social interaction stuff, the kids playing sports, whatever it is, you know, that time you're most likely at home now instead of you know, that time being spent. So you have the time to do what you know you need to do at home. So, you know, just springtime around the corner, you know, have mulch delivered. I mean, you know, again, try to limit the trips out to Home Depot. You know, we're not saying, hey, you should be at Home Depot every day, you know, figuring out a new project to take on, but just do the basic stuff to your home that, you know, has a low investment and will ultimately have a good rate of return because you did it versus not. And, you know, that's the same conversation that we would have even if COVID didn't exist here. You know, there's still this simple stuff that you can do to get your house ready to sell. And we're not asking you to remodel your kitchen. You know, if you're really stir crazy at home and you're capable of doing, you know, major projects to your house and it makes sense for you to take it on, the same concepts apply that we're going to advise you on. And I just mentioned that return on investment. You know, I don't care who you are. If you're getting stuff done at a cheaper rate because you're doing it yourself and you're not having to hire, you know, Joe the contractor, it's still got to have a rate of return.
Yeah.
You know, what may come into play with this time more than ever is like, I'm just freaking bored and I'm going to do this. I don't even really care. It's for my own sanity. Okay, great. But you know, that's kind of it. It's still kind of down to the basics conversation in that regard to that question. Right?
All good points. And to chime in, I feel like I want to talk about the pulse of the market right now, right? Because we've been putting a lot of listings out there and we're having to be honest with you, we're having more success than I thought we would. And, you know, the more that I think about it, it makes sense. Because if you're a buyer and you're buying right now in what we're going through, you don't have a desire to buy, you have to buy, right? Whoever's buying right now has to buy. And not that they're desperate buyers, but they're aggressive buyers, and they're buyers that have a lease that's going to expire in 2 months. They're buyers that they want to get out of whatever situation that they're in. So if you're a seller and you have the ability to list, especially if it's a vacant home, or there's, you know, easy enough to conduct. It's not a, you know, it's not a house with a big family where it's going to be a pain. I'm telling you right now, I think that if the situation worked for you, this current market, like literally this week and going into next week, I'm going to make the argument that homes are going to sell more now than when the floodgates open, because the buyers right now have to buy. The buyers in May or June or whenever the floodgates open, those are the buyers that want to buy. Those are your typical, we're going to move, you know, in the kids' summer break, and we're going to move in prior to the fall if we find something. If you have to sell, if you have a financial strain on you right now and you're waiting this out to list your house, you're leaving a lot. I know that you're leaving a lot of money on the table.
Well, you know, back to supply and demand, right? I mean, where you talk about the floodgates opening, inevitably, there's going to be a lot of homes listed at the same time, you know, be it that first week when pause is over, or whatever you want to call it.
There's going to be more listings that first week than there was the 2 previous months.
Yeah, we're going to shift, like whether that time lasts for a week or a month, right when the floodgates open, it's going to shift to a buyer's market. In
a stabilized one.
Yeah, and I'm not like, for sellers, I'm not saying that you're screwed, but just the inventory is going to be up, and I mean that's what this market has been needing for the last 4 years. It's all going to kind of, in a short term, it's all going to happen at once, and you know, again, just supply and demand. There's going to be enough buyers to meet the supply. But you know, these buyers are going to have, you know, maybe a few homes to choose from that are similar compared to, you know, just as an example, what was the one house they were looking at before. So it's just kind of that leveling effect and that potential immediate shift effect that happens, you know, once this is over, so to speak. From there, you know, I think we're still very much in the same inventory problem that we've been in for years now, and if anything, that could be heightened based on what's happening, you know, economically across the board, and you know, the same kind of effect is happening to the buyer pool too. So, you know, we'll still be in a strong market here locally. There's been a lot of, you know, kind of news going around that Rochester, you know, has the accolades built to where, you know, we're seen as stable in terms of other markets nationally. So, yeah, I don't think it's doom and gloom for the market, but this is, you know, we're still looking at big economic hits here.
So with the quarantine going on, there's a lot of people, you know, bettering themselves, learning French or something. So are you guys gonna like come out of this thing? You're gonna be like ripped and like speaking, you know, Mandarin or something, you know? What's your skills?
We're growing corn titties.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I just been hey honey, can you make me a sandwich?
Yeah, right.
Long, so.
I didn't know if you guys were gonna like better yourselves or anything, you know? We're gonna come out, everybody's gonna be like superhuman when they come out of this thing.
No, yeah. I tried to get permission to set up a gym in the garage, but if that guy,
oh my God.
I'm just trying to get better. So.
All right. Well, yeah, you can check out antibuterrateam.com and subscribe to the real estate show there. All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Take care.
We'll see you.
Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Show. Find us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. If you're looking to sell or buy, talk to the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. Visit AnthonyButeraTeam.com.